This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stewart Howden.
Welcome. Show number 184. You know, we had warm weather yesterday. It was nice. I took my boat in to get serviced.
I ordered it for my birthday. I ordered special.
When is your birthday?
It was yesterday.
Oh.
Okay, before you got it off the trailer, what did you owe them?
$1,000. And I hadn't come off the trailer. They're like, well, those tires are no good. And the tongue hitch on that thing and the lime and the coconut.
And by the way, your car needs inspection, too.
Yeah, have you noticed your car's out of inspection? And those aren't the right numbers on the side of your boat.
And can you call for us?
Oh, my God. It's just, the downside of having toys is having toys.
It's true.
So, before we get to our wonderful guest, let's give a guess to a number of cars in inventory. JR, you can start this week.
Oh, I'm going to go with, was it a busy week? Give me a hint.
No.
No hints. Okay.
No, it's not busy.
1,037.
You're so far off.
Oh, wow. No, it's I'm going to go 990.
Oh, 991.
Oh,
hey,
wow.
Happy birthday.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah,
Thank you
here you
very
go.
much.
Make this work. That's your gift.
What is this? Oh.
That's the remote for the fan. No, don't worry about it. I'm just kidding. So let's get to our guest so we can stop jabbering up here. So joining us via Zoom today from, I'm assuming, down in Florida, Steve Ahglrim, Ferrari expert, just a car guru guy. You get to Concours judge. You get to do all the fun stuff. We have to all sit here and work every week and watch you at all these events. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Pleasure to talk with you.
Nice to talk to you. We met briefly in Chattanooga a year or so ago, but didn't get a chance to visit as usual because you go to these events and there's a gazillion people and it's hard to have any kind of conversation that lasts more than about 30 seconds. Love that Chattanooga event, though. What a wonderful event that is.
We've had a real good time with the event. They're working on restructuring a little bit for this year. The actual dates are not hammered out yet, but I think we'll see something in the next week or two.
Yeah, we were concerned, even had heard talk that maybe they might skip a year. So we were, hopefully optimistic that they won't and that they will have an event this year because there is not much more fun weekend than you can have than being there on that weekend, whenever that may be.
Well, it's so nice to have the event right outside the hotel. I mean, you literally walk outside the hotel. There's restaurants up and down. The cars are right outside. It just is a wonderful event, and it's the people that you see when you walk down to the bar in the Westin in the evening. You don't know who you're going to be next to, but you could pretty well be assured there's going to be several celebrities right close to you.
Absolutely. And I've proven time and time again that you can do business at a bar, especially the one in Chattanooga at the Westin. And I'm going to stick with that.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it. And the Ferrari collection that you gather up for that event is spectacular. I mean, they just magically show up on Sunday morning, and your eyes are watering when you see the selection there.
They give us a really nice field to put the cars, so you get to see them in a great location where you can walk around, get real close to the cars. We've been very, very lucky that the group that works with us puts together a great selection of cars. I mean, the first year we did this, I think the average value of the cars was somewhere around $4 million. The average value. It was amazing. But that was a bit of an unusual year. Then we had a 275 Nart Spider, a couple other big pieces, and through the years we've kind of pulled that a little bit to where we try and have a good selection of modern cars too, because most people know the modern cars, but when you start getting into an old classic Ferrari, you kind of have to explain that to people.
Sure.
And while it's the people in the know love seeing something like a 400 Super America, the average person that comes from out a little ways out of town, they have no idea what a 400 Super America is, and they don't care.
They'd be more impressed with a 308 because they recognize that from being on TV.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah, Testarossa.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's the thing that, you know, we have a tendency in this business to, you know, there's some snobbery that goes on in this business from time to time, and it shouldn't be, because we all started somewhere. You know, I used to probably think something that was cool back in the day that, you know, wasn't that cool, but it was cool to me. And, you know, but we see even the lower end Ferraris now gaining some serious traction. I mean, 308's bringing staggering money, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. And 328s and 400Is and Mondials and all that we, you know, it was hard to almost give away not that long ago, and seem to be bringing some pretty serious numbers these days.
They are. I think you have to put it in comparison to 911s. When you see the air-cooled 911s, those are the ones that baffle me. Yeah. There's just so many of those cars, and they all look the same.
Right.
And there's minute differences between car to car, but those minute differences can make a huge amount of money in value. And those are the ones that really kind of surprise me.
Sure.
The Ferraris they're the top of the market. They're the best car you could have got at the time. So for them to still have a great value is doing, you know, that's expected to me.
Right. Well, I just saw that the least expensive car on DuPont Registry's website was a Mondial. It was $39,000. So that's, I guess, the entry level to getting into Ferrari world. I guess you can't get probably one any cheaper, I wouldn't imagine.
I don't think you get anything much cheaper than that. And that car is underloved. I mean, a good Mondial is really a nice car. They drive real good, but the problem is if you get an edgy one and somebody hasn't taken care of it, they can be a mess. You get a Mondial Cabriolet that's got a bad top and a sunburnt interior. It's no fun for you. There's no joy there.
And that goes with any European foreign car, whether it be Jaguar, Mercedes, BMW. You get one that's well sorted and taken care of, then, you know, you have a delight. But, you know, we all hear the horror stories, and the guy says, look, I bought this Jaguar for $5,000. And you go, yeah, that's the least expensive check you're going to write.
Absolutely. I mean, you always buy the very best you possibly can.
Yeah, you had an interesting statement about that I read somewhere, and I can't remember, but something about buy the best, because if you have to buy one that's a project, you can't afford it any more than you can't afford the best, or something in those lines.
If you can't afford a nice one, you really can't afford a rough one.
I love that. That's gonna be my epitaph. You know, but it's very true. We always tell people to buy the nicest one you can buy, but with the caveat that leave a little extra in case for I might want to change this, or I may want to do this a little different, or this needs repaired or whatever. So always leave a little extra in the piggy bank just in case, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you've been in the collector car business for 40 plus years. And, you know, how lucky are those of us who get to do something that we love? Our hobby is our business.
I'll tell you, it's been great. My wife and I will oftentimes talk about it, that I haven't got rich doing this, but I've made wonderful friends. I've got to go to wonderful places, and it's something I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, I've been able to go to Dubai. I've been able to go to do a rally in Dubai. I've been to Italy, I think 4 times on Ferrari's nickel.
Right.
It just, you know, judging at Pebble Beach.
I was going to say,
judging
at Pebble Beach. I mean, that is both exciting and frightening at the same time.
I described it to my mom. My mom was alive at the time that I did that. I did it for 3 years. And the Ferrari group, we rotate judges. So a lot of the classes there, you've got the same judge that's been there for 40, 50 years. Right. And they're almost in their walkers. Right. But the Ferrari group, we've got several of the guys are kind of permanent because they're just so darn good. And then you have a couple guys that they'll rotate in. And in my case, I got rotated in, did it for 3 years. And going back to the original story, I told my mom, I am the referee at the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just that's it. I'm at the Super Bowl, and I'm the one that is calling the shots.
Well, I'm the one who holds the sign where you flip the number over and tell you what down it is. They're going to get rid of those guys too, I read. So, but yeah, to be a part of those things, you know, I can remember the first time I was standing on the lawn in Amelia, and it's almost like, wow, somebody pinched me. I'm really standing here at one of the premier concours in the whole wide world, and I can just walk around and look at anything I want.
I've had so many of those experiences that it's just like, well, how did I get here? And in my situation, I've been able to work with Ferraris, the pinnacle of the automobiles. I've worked
Absolutely.
with Ferraris for 50 years now, and it's. I describe it to people sometimes. It's like being a banker that is going through money.
Right.
It doesn't affect me to how much money they're worth.
Right.
They're cars to me.
Right.
And I never think of the value, much like that the banker doesn't think about the value of the dollar bills they're passing out.
Exactly. Well, and Ferraris, I mean, such a cool. And you worked with FAF out of Atlanta, didn't you, back in the day? And
yeah.
And they were one of the original Ferrari dealers. Them and Ahlgrim up here in Pennsylvania, and a handful of those guys who were the kind of the pioneers of Ferrari world.
Well, the quick story on FAF, and there's actually a book on FAF that's really kind of an interesting book that is fun to read. But FAF started out as a merchandise company. The two owners of the business figured out that people wanted to have manuals for their cars, their old Ferraris, but the manuals are no longer available. So one of them worked for an insurance company. They would buy manuals or track them down however they could and reproduce them on the Xerox machine at the insurance company. Right. And they started selling them. And they found out, gee, this stuff sells pretty well. So the next thing, they add a couple things. And before long, they became a used parts dealer who then got to have a Ferrari franchise.
Wow. And
at one point, they had a mail order catalog that was all Ferrari stuff that they sent out to 28,000 people worldwide.
Wow. Wow,
and it worked out. That was just that was the base of the business. So we knew people everywhere. If you had a 212 in Thailand,
right,
you knew FAF, and we knew you,
right.
And that's how I got. That's how I got into the business. I never was one of the Ferrari sales guys that think they're above everybody.
Right.
These were my friends.
Sure.
My friend in Thailand, Japan, Wyoming, wherever it was. These got to be my friends, and eventually Ferrari came in when one of the new regimes of Ferrari came in, and they decided that the dealers couldn't sell outside their territory.
Right.
So the catalog to where we sold the clutch for $1,000 for a 308 was going to a client in Nashville where their dealer was selling the clutch for $2,000. And they were complaining to Ferrari North America that we were selling in their territory. So essentially, Ferrari North America just kind of slapped our hands and said, you can't do that anymore.
Sure. Well, and people that own Ferraris, especially in the early days, were not like they are today. They weren't wealthy individuals. They were eccentric, probably more would be a better description of what they were back in the 70s, the guys that owned 50s and 60s racing Ferraris. Nobody knew the value was going to be of these things, right?
No, nobody did. And I used to say that my clients back during that time were a lot of small businessmen. Now, that small businessman could be a doctor, could be a lawyer, but it also could be a plumber with 5 trucks on the road.
Right.
That was who our business, that's who our clients were. And I suspect a lot of those people are your clients now.
100%. That's we are blue collar as through and through as you can be. Our guys are, my running joke is that they still shop at Walmart. They still bitch about a $3 bottle of water, but they'll spend $150,000 on a Resto Mod Camaro like nobody's business.
Absolutely. Yep, that's it. And we get up every morning and pray for them.
Yeah, yes, we do. And, it's funny because you would look at them from the outside looking in, you'd think this guy doesn't have a nickel. And that's why you have to be so careful in this business, no matter what it is. You and I both have been standing there talking to some guy at an auction. Seems like just a regular nice guy, and all of a sudden he starts raising his hand on the $5 million Ferrari, and you're like, who the heck are you? He just looks like me and you, just a normal guy.
Well, we were based out of Atlanta when I was with FAF, and I had a Saturday afternoon story where a guy walks in. He's literally in bib overalls. His grandpa with his son or grandson, and they'd been out walking around doing some stuff. And this guy had they stopped in, and I'm talking to him a little bit because I always like talking to everybody. We were fortunate; we weren't on the main drag, and I could talk to anybody who walked in as long as they wanted to talk.
Sure.
And so I'm talking to him for a little bit, and there was a guy sitting in my office. And I happened to go into the office to get a pen to write down their information. And the guy looks at me and says, do you know who that is? I said, no. He said, well, that's William Beebe. He's the chairman of the board of Delta Airlines.
Oh, yeah. I knew who he was. I was just funning you, right?
Yeah. I mean, you never could tell. I had a client call yesterday that him and his family came in one time on a trip back from Florida. I'll do this as quick as I can. They were on the trip back from Florida. There were Indiana plates on their Buick, Highline Buick. The kid gets out, got a quilted Sears jacket on. Dad's got a quilted Sears jacket on. Mom just looks really regular.
Right.
And so we're talking to them a little bit. Well, I happen to be from Indiana, so we get swapping Indiana stories. Turns out the guy buys a Testarossa from me, buys a 308. The guy wrecks the 308. A deer runs out in front of him. Dad would not let him fix the car. He wanted me to get another car for him. and it turns out that Dad was one of these old codgers in southern Indiana that went out and knew the farmers and would get oil leases there.
Wow.
And you think of Texas as being an oil place, but southern Indiana and Kentucky, they had oil wells. And for the oil wells, he would always get a point or two for his son.
Right.
And so they had 28 oil wells, and they had plenty of money.
I wish my dad would get me a point or two on something. That would have been nice, right? And in Atlanta too, I grew up in East Tennessee, and Atlanta was the big city in the area. That was where you went to the big city to go, clothes shopping or whatever was cool. And we loved Atlanta. It was a lot of fun back in the heyday. Now it's you drive through there and you'd want to kill yourself before you drive through I-75 through downtown Atlanta.
Yeah, I spent 30 years there, and I watched it grow as we were there. And the last time I was there, I was quite surprised of the traffic north of Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
They're driving from there if I went to the Chattanooga show, I flew into Atlanta and drove up. And the last time it was like stuck on the highway forever. But
well, sure.
I'm in South Florida. We supposedly have some of the worst traffic in the country here. Worse than LA sometimes.
Yeah, I lived in LA, and I lived in South Florida, and I can tell you that I hate I-95 worse than any road on the planet, no matter where you are, whether it's in South Florida or up near Connecticut. I mean, nothing worse than leaving Greenwich on a Sunday late afternoon trying to get home to Pennsylvania. It's not that bad of a drive, according to as the crow flies, but oh man, the traffic is just horrendous, and it's pretty bad down in your part of the world too. Although some beautiful cars to look at as you're sitting there in traffic.
Absolutely. I mean, the cars that you see in South Florida are just. It's not at all unusual to see a McLaren on the road, a Lamborghini. Lamborghinis are commonplace down here. Yeah. And you see all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you see a Bugatti on the road, it's not surprising. I got stuck in the 95 traffic yesterday. I've got an Audi A5 that a lady just barely tapped the rear bumper on it, and the insurance company wants to total it. Right. Well, I don't know, I guess because there's a little bit of damage on the inside of the trunk, and they're concerned about that. But anyway, they want to total it. So I was out yesterday looking for a new car, and I drove all the way across from here to Naples to look at another A5. Then I looked at a BMW down in Miami, and then drove up through here. And I spent, 7 hours on the highway yesterday.
All day.
So today I'm looking at your inventory.
Well,
you say, hey, what do you guys got up here? And you guys got some really pretty interesting stuff up there. You got a Puma in stock. I'm one of the few people in the world that know what a Puma is, because I've had a customer that had a Puma. It was a Brazilian sports car that based on a Volkswagen with a Volkswagen engine.
Absolutely. We also have a Pontiac Machiavelli, which I don't even know what that is, but I know that I heard of them and seen them. But they were a weird, oddball Ferrari-esque looking design made back in, I guess, was the 80s, Steve? Yeah. So
I'll have to look that one up. I didn't see that because I was just looking at the manufacturers. But I mean, you had a Lotus Europa there. I had one of my first sports cars with a Lotus Europa, and
cool cars.
I just love that. Would love to have another one. You had a really great selection of Jaguars. I was surprised at the number of Jags you had there. And one of the other ones that I kind of enjoy, you had a Corniche Coupe, a Rolls-Royce Corniche Coupe.
Which you don't often see. It's funny when you say, oh, that guy's driving a Corniche convertible, and somebody smart alecky will say, well, it's redundant to say Corniche convertible. They only came in convertibles. No, they didn't. They came in coupes. And the coupe is good looking.
Yeah, it's a good looking car. It's a nice driving car. In some ways, it might be more drivable than what the convertible is. I actually had a convertible for a demo for a period of time. We had done some work on it. Now this is This is at a classic car store like you, to where you go out and a demo can be a 30-year-old car.
Right, exactly.
So I had one. We had done some mechanical work to it, and we had to drive it for a long period of time to see whether the mechanical work was done or properly.
Right.
And so I had this car that I drove for probably 2 months. It was my everyday driver.
Wow.
And people would pull up next to you at a stoplight and always compliment you on it. And it was interesting because there's certain cars you can drive and people look at you out of the corner of their eyes and, oh, who does this guy think he is?
Exactly.
And the Corniche was one that people look at you. It was like a Mustang convertible where everybody says, wow, is that really a cool car?
Sure. You know,
that was fun to have.
The funniest thing is when in the old, or not in the old days, but when you go and get gas and you're used to driving something cool and classic looking or whatever, and then you happen to one day have to get gas in a minivan and nobody's talking to you at the gas station. It's like, where is everybody? People are usually always, oh, it's not me. It's the car.
Well, I've got a good gas station story. I used to buy, when I was with the Ferrari dealer, I used to try and find fun places to buy cars, some place I've never been. Right. Reno, Nevada, hell yes, I'll buy a car there. Las Vegas, I'll go out there. Detroit, yeah, we'll try. I've never been to Detroit. So I'm driving in one time with I suppose it was probably a 308 during that period, but I don't know for sure. I'm in Alabama, 2:00 at night, stopping for gas, and there's a couple good old boys next to me.
Right. And
I'm looking at them, and they're looking at me, and I'm saying, yeah, this is my boss's car. I hate this damn thing. I want to get back home and get in my Corvette. And all of a sudden, I was a friend.
You were a buddy, yeah, because the man had this Ferrari, and that was not you. It's funny how you can be chameleon-esque sometimes when necessary, right? Especially in the South.
Yeah.
Especially in the South.
And the guys, similar situation, the people said, is that the new Mustang? They said, the prancing horse. Is that the new Mustang? Yes, sir, it is.
Yes, sir. You know why? Especially if he's with his son, young son or something, you don't want to embarrass the guy. I mean, that was the problem in our hobby. I'll never forget when I moved to L.A. and I walked into O'Gara Motor Coach or something fancy on Wilshire Boulevard, and I was, 20 years old and wide-eyed. They treated me like a stepchild, They were just awful to me. And I thought, one day I'll be back and I'll show you. And, of course, I could now, but I don't because they're not there anymore. So
I've had some of those one-day people that come back. I mean, it was down at Amelia. I ran into a dentist from over in Birmingham that used to come over to the showroom when he was young, before he was out of school.
Right.
But in general, again, I like these people.
Right.
We weren't in a situation to where we were a snooty dealership.
Sure.
If there was a kid that came in and we used to move cars outside. We'd have a full showroom. You guys know about a full showroom.
Yeah.
And you'd have a Saturday where you had to move some cars out so people could move around. We put cars out in the grass outside the dealership. If there was a father that came in with a kid, I'd always find the excuse of, well, this car needs to get put back in the showroom. Why don't you come for a ride with me?
Nice.
And I'd take them for a short ride down the street, and the kids remember that forever.
Sure. And you're the exception to the rule. I mean, a lot of times it was not that way back in the 70s, and it's certainly gotten so much better these days because, it's like with us. We treat the guy with the $5,000 El Camino the same as we treat the guy with the $5 million Ferrari. They're the same person. Their passion is our passion, and your pride and joy is our pride and joy. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's very true. I mean, we like 85 El Caminos for some odd reason, and we don't know why, but we just do.
Well, we have Cars and Coffee down here like everybody around the country does, but we happen to have one local Cars and Coffee that you'll have regular cars to. You'll have a Volvo station wagon. You'll have a BMW 528 that somebody has kept for years. You'll have all kinds of just kind of, I won't call them regular cars, but regular sports cars, MGBs, TR6s, and I love to go to that show. Yeah. When you get down to Miami, the show is all, we've got a Bugatti, we've got a Koenigsegg, and we have all the supercars. I'm bored of the supercars. I like seeing the regular stuff. Don't
they all kind of look the same? And I know that sounds cliche, but I mean, I see a new Corvette and I'm not really sure what I'm looking at. I'm like, what is that? Oh, that's the Corvette. As it gets closer, you go, oh, it's the Corvette.
Well, I heard that you talk about that on one of your previous shows, and I actually made a note about that because in the showroom that I worked at in Fort Lauderdale, we were across the street, 6-lane from a grocery store. And if you saw one of the new cars at the grocery store, you couldn't tell what it was. If it was a Lamborghini, if it was an NSX, whether it's a McLaren, whether it's a Ferrari, you couldn't tell from across the street. Sure. And that is something that got to bother me. And I would add that the one that I could tell the difference was the Maserati MC12.
Oh, yeah.
Maserati MC12 has a very distinctive front end. You look at that car and say, wow, that looks different from the rest. I like this car.
Sure. Yeah, I think.
But you are exactly right. The other ones all look the same, and I think that it's got to do with the wind tunnel. That there's only certain things you can do to cheat the wind, and that they all look the same.
Sure, and it's kind of it's a shame because I miss the old days. I mean, I always loved reading the old the color names and color variations that they had back in the day, especially on the '50s cars that we used to see come through here. But it's not the same, and I guess that's part of the nature of what we do. And our concern is that we've got to keep people interested in cars. And the more they become generic, the less they become interesting, in my opinion, to people that we're trying to gauge toward the hobby. Because what is going to happen when all these massive Ferrari collectors all go? They're gone. And it's going to happen all at the same time because they're all of the same generation. What's going to happen with the market? Is it going to implode? Is it going to do great? Is there going to be buyers? Who knows?
It's real tricky. I say that I'll go to dinner with some of the modern Ferrari guys, and I'll be sitting across the table from somebody talking about a 275 GTB, and they don't know what it is, and they don't care.
Right.
And that's a little bit scary. When you and I were young, I think I'm probably a little bit older than you, but when we were younger, you'd look out in the street and you could tell that's a 58 Chevy, that's a 57 Chevy, that's a 59 Chevy. You knew what the different cars were. Nowadays, you don't know.
No.
You can't tell a 5-year-old Lexus from a brand new Lexus.
Sure.
And so why would you want to get a new car when it looks like the old one?
Yeah, it looks exactly like the same car you had before. I mean, that's and some people did that by design, maybe, to act like they weren't ever getting a new car. We grew up in a very conservative world that the richest people in town drove Buicks and Oldsmobiles, and the middle-class guys drove the Lincolns and the Cadillacs.
Well, that's the way it was in Atlanta when I was there, that the person would have a big house out in Paces Ferry, but when they came to the dealership, they had a 2-year-old Cadillac.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of people were like that back in the day. And now, of course, that's completely different. People have glass garage doors at their house so you can see in from the road and see what they own. So, good for them. Hey, listen, if that's your thing, that's your thing, right?
It's a bit regional also. When I grew up, I grew up in northern Indiana. The guys that owned the factories up there, they drove a Chevrolet back and forth because they didn't want the people at the company to know how much money they had. But they also had a place down in Boca with a Corniche there.
Right. And they wouldn't be caught dead in hometown USA in that Corniche because it would send the wrong message to everybody.
Absolutely.
It's funny how that's changed, though, and it's funny how people are more, a lot of it has to do, maybe I'd never thought of this until right this moment, but a lot of it, I think, has to do with the Forbes 400. When that list started coming out of the richest people in America, and then it became the richest people in the world, it was all of a sudden, it made it okay to be rich. And it made it okay for people to know how much you had and what you had and, what your cars were and how many, what you had. And we didn't have that before.
Well, I guess I go, again, this regional thing, because when I lived in Atlanta, people didn't flaunt their wealth. As soon as I came down to Florida, it was a whole different situation. Right. The people in Florida flaunted their wealth. You saw the Rolex, you saw the diamonds, you saw expensive clothes, you saw fancy cars, and you did big boats out in front of their place. It was pretty normal to see wealth down here.
Sure. Well, and I think that as time goes on, the advent of the internet has certainly made everything more accessible, and not in a good way. It might have been fun to be famous back in the 50s. I'm not sure it would be fun to be famous in this day and age.
Maybe so.
Yeah. Although, what am I doing here? Am I trying to be famous? Is that what I'm doing? I'm not sure what I'm doing here.
You're trying to have a good time.
Well, that's what, I say that this is my hour therapy every week, that I get to do something and enjoy it and have a conversation with people. And not just a conversation of, you run into somebody, like we said, at an event and you shoot the crap with them for a couple of minutes and then you move on, and there's no real meaning. It's fun to do a little deeper dive with people and talk to them about things that are interesting, we hope, to the market, and, obviously to have fun as well, too. So you got to have a favorite Concours that you judge at. There's got to be one that stands out. I know Pebble is the obvious answer, but is there another one that gets your attention?
I've enjoyed the Ahlgrim for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, as a Concours, it's a weekend event for most people, and you go into some Concours and it's just a car show for the day. Other ones have different components to it that make it more interesting. And Ahlgrim would usually have. When they started off, they would have an event on Friday night at one of the fancy houses. Ahlgrim is in Newport, Rhode Island,
right,
with very wealthy houses, very wealthy people were. And so they would have a party at one of the houses. The next night they'd have a different type of party. You had an event like the Quail event that they did on Saturday. And then on Sunday you would have the big Concours, and so that the whole weekend ended up being something that was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed doing that. One of the ones that I do that not a whole lot of people know about, but we do the Celebration Exotic Car Festival down in Celebration, Florida.
Right.
And it's a full weekend event. They on Friday night they'll do a concert. So if you've gone there, you're going to go to a concert where they take you on a tour bus from the hotel. The celebration is done on a lake. It's the Disney town that you would have heard about years ago.
Sure.
That was a planned community, and it's around the lake, and there's a hotel on the lake. And so a lot of the people stay there. The cars are on the street right outside of there. And so you run down from the hotel, get on the bus, go out to the concert. They bring you back. You don't have to worry about driving. Your car's just out in the street. Saturday, you're going to have a Concours there. Saturday night, they have a wine tasting and nice fancy dinner. Sunday, they have a rally. And then Monday and Tuesday, they have a track event. So that anybody that goes there can have 5 days of activities.
Sure.
And it's very informal. That's another one that I really enjoy doing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the formal things are still prevalent in some areas. In some cases, they're still relevant, that you wear the black tie and all that. I know I'm on the board of directors at the Radnor Hunt, and we still do a black tie on Saturday night. And it's part of the area that you're in, that people like to dress up in some areas. South Florida, a black tie event may not be quite as accepted as it is still up here to this day. And I don't mind it. It's kind of fun to get your tuxedo on, make sure it's your gauge every year to see how much weight you've gained.
This is real old school. A few years back, Jacques Swatters over in Belgium did what he called was the FF 40.
Right.
And that was a 40-year reunion of Ferrari. I can tell you how far back it is. It's a 40-year reunion of Ferrari. And so that's what that's for, is the 40-year reunion.
Well, it's always interesting to see what's in the background when people are when we have them on the show with us, and see all the goodies that they have on their shelves, because we're all kids, we're all just 14 years old.
Absolutely. And you just I'm not really a collector,
right?
But I've collected a lot of stuff. I mean, things that you just get as you go along, that you stick on the shelf and don't throw anything away. There's a Mille Miglia flag up there from doing the Mille Miglia last year, which was an incredible experience that most Americans really don't understand or don't appreciate. But that was a bucket list event.
Oh, I absolutely would 100% agree with you. That, going to Monaco, see the F1 race, Goodwood. I mean, that's right up there, because it just doesn't get much cooler than that, the Mille Miglia.
Yeah, it was unexpected for me. There was a friend of mine who didn't have the time to do the logistics for it himself, as far as doing the application. I mean, I spent a good at least a day over a several day period of time, just getting the application in for that, because you have to have a particular car. It has to be approved by them. It has to be a particular vintage, and then it has to be FIVA inspected. So we went through and did a lot of stuff like that to get in, and got everything all arranged, the logistics of flying the car over there, flying the car back. You get support when you're over there. You don't just go over yourself and turn the key and drive. I mean, we literally had a truck that followed us during the time we were there. We had a team that took care of hospitality for us, made sure that when we got to the end of a day that we would have food there. They sometimes would book us in a different hotel than everybody else, because the host hotel perhaps wasn't up to the standards that they liked. And I mean, it was very interesting doing that. Well, anyway, get down to the last 2 weeks. The fellow who was supposed to go as navigator ended up having a family tragedy.
Oh no!
And the guy that I was working for calls up and says, "Well, do you want to go to Italy?"
No, sorry, I'm busy.
and yeah, I thought about it for 30 seconds. Says, "Yeah, I'll go ahead and go." And so I was able to go over there and do the event with them. And it's something I never really thought about doing.
Sure,
I've always thought of it as being kind of a rich guys tour type thing.
Sure. It
was not. It was a rich guys event, but it was a race.
Right.
And from the time that we started out, we did some training, and we were there a couple days ahead of time. We didn't stop for a stoplight for 10 days.
Wow.
you would when we left the start line, I thought that you have a stage that you go because you go to a particular time. But I thought we were going to have just kind of a nice tour, and I'd navigate. We got 3 blocks down, and the guys behind us are passing us.
Right.
You would come up to a traffic light, and there'd be a line of people waiting for the traffic light. You'd go around the outside of them and cut in front so that you're the very first car, so that if you had to stop for a traffic light because you had crossed traffic, you were the first one to go.
Sure.
If the traffic was backing up going for a roundabout, you would again go and catch and get in front of them, so that you're the first one to go down the roundabout. Going down the middle of the road with traffic coming after you, traffic on the other side, and you're going down the middle of the road. It was crazy. It would only happen in Italy.
Yeah, I was going to say it'd be hard to do over here, right?
It'd be impossible.
So let's talk briefly. I know that your battery may or may not go, but current state of the market and what's happened in Amelia recently in Miami with the Ferrari market. Are you bullish or bearish or optimistic or not?
I did 3 car. I write for Sports Car Market, and for Sports Car Market, I did an article a short while back. I guess I did maybe 4 cars. We did a classic car. I watched one of the classic cars run. The classic car had sold 3 times in the past 4 years, not 4 years, probably 10 years, 3 times in the past 10 years, each time for a little less money.
Right.
So that was what was happening in, we'll call it a $3 million classic car point. Then they had one of the Ferrari SF90s, which is a real interesting story. That's Ferrari's mass-produced supercar.
Right. The
mass-produced supercar, which a lot of people signed up to get because, I'm going to get a supercar, and I don't have to stand in line like getting an F40 or an F50, something like that. I can actually order and get one of these. It was selling for $150,000 under list.
Wow.
So this guy had this car for 2.5 years and lost $150,000 on it.
Which normally doesn't happen in Ferrari world, right? Normally you buy something exclusive and it goes up.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the guys that ordered those, they would order a coupe and then, I don't want to get a Spider 2. If they're coming out with a Spider and they got an XX version, I want one of those. Well, they didn't realize, they weren't reading this fine. I wouldn't even say it was fine print. Ferrari called it a production supercar.
Right, which means they made a lot of them.
They weren't appreciating what production meant.
Right.
And then the other one was a 296, which I was a bit surprised at this, but the new Ferrari 296 sold for within, $15,000 of a new price.
Right.
Oh, that was actually did quite well. So to go back to your question, the vintage cars are slow right now. it's going to be tricky. Those aren't going to. I don't see those coming back and being real strong. I think there's always going to be people for them.
Sure.
Somebody's going to. They're the best. They're the best collector cars there are out there, and I think that you're going to have people always want one, but I don't know that they're willing to pay up, and I don't think the cars are going to appreciate how they have been.
Sure. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule, right? I mean, we just saw last weekend at Gooding the 375mm Berlinetta for $9.4 million, selling for a price like that, but that's not going to always be the case. Of course, the surprising thing to me at the Gooding sale was the two AMG Mercedes Hammers, the coupe and the sedan, that brought north of 600,000 and north of 700,000 respectively. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, but what was the estimate on them?
Probably less.
The estimate was well north of that.
See, now that's a psychological thing. I think that they, hey, we'll put it out there that it's $1 million.
Well, yeah, I mean, playing the estimates is quite a game for the companies. But I'll tell you what, I was surprised that they sold well south of the estimate. I don't watch a whole lot of different cars, but I happened to judge a Hammer at an event in Miami a couple years ago, and it kind of is in my mind.
Sure. Interesting cars, certainly. They were the unknown hot rods of the day. Not a lot of people really realized what they were. Of course, and then Broad Arrow sold a California Spider Competizione for $9.4 million as well at Amelia. That surprising or no?
That had previously sold for, I think, 15 or so.
Yeah. I mean,
it had dropped back dramatically.
That's got to be a haircut that, I don't care how much money you got, is not a pleasant one to get.
Well, yeah, it's not a pleasant one to get. The guy that got it has intimate apparel clothing stores.
Oh, gotcha. So
anyway, he could afford it. He has been paring down his collection, and that was one of the cars that came out of his collection. I think that the other side of that story is I think he paid awful lot of money for the car when he bought it.
And is there further down? Is it neutral? Is it going to go down in value? I know you're not a crystal ball, but
you want to keep in mind that car finished very well at Le Mans. So that's
sure.
That's one reason that it made it that much money. It was an alloy body car, which most of them were steel. And I have to say, I didn't study this car that much, but I think it's an alloy body car that did well at Le Mans, and that's why it got that's why it got as much as it did.
Sure.
I think California's and Tour de France's are pretty slow right now.
Sure. And then, of course, we had the 250 LM that sold the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. That was pretty crazy. Both of that and the Mercedes that they sold prior to selling the rest of them were pretty staggering numbers, although 30 million or 30 million plus for that. Is that a good buy?
Quick story. I've got some background on that.
Yeah.
I went to school in Terre Haute, Indiana. And when I would walk back and forth from my apartment to school, I crossed the main drag in Terre Haute, which was like a main drag in a lot of cities there at the time, to where the buildings were, a lot of the businesses were clearing out and moving out to the mall. And one of the businesses there was a theater, that the theater had closed, and it had been changed to, I believe it was called Early Wheels Museum. And Early Wheels Museum would have belonged to Tony Holman.
Yeah, the Terre Haute native.
Tony Holman is from Terre Haute. And I would walk past there, and there was vintage cars in there, and I'd always walk in, look around. One of the vintage cars that was in there was that 250 Testarossa.
Wow.
And he had it there prior to moving over to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So I knew the car then, and I'd watch the car as I'd see it in different places. Eventually, It went over to Motor Speedway. They brought it they brought it to Amelia a couple years ago.
Sure.
They also brought it to one of the other events that I do. So I'd see the car from time to time. When I was at Amelia, I was judging with Luigi Canetti Jr.
He's a character.
Yeah, he's quite a character. We have a great time judging together.
I bet.
But I'm saying, Luigi, look down at the end of the aisle here. There's the 250 Testarossa your dad had at one time, and I told him the story of my Terre Haute story,
Right.
and he looked at me and said, "Well, I drove that to a 7th place finish at Daytona." And I was like, "You son of a gun! You beat my story."
Yeah, that story just trumped my story completely. That's no fire.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
So to finish out what you were asking, I think that the car did very well. I think that it deserved to do very well. I mean, it is the 4th most expensive Ferrari ever to sell at auction.
Right.
It is the most expensive Ferrari ever to sell at auction whose name is not GTO.
right. Well said.
It is the 6th most expensive automobile to sell at auction.
Wow. Now that's interesting.
I mean, when you start taking a look at it, it really was a substantial car, and I don't know how you replace it.
No, that's the thing.
The LMs were the first of the what I'll call a GT car,
Right.
mid-engine car. You could drive it on the street. It wasn't designed to be driven on the
Sure.
street, but you could drive it on the street. It was the first one with a rear transaxle. And it was, it has an important place in the Ferrari history. It's got an exotic look to it. I think it did well.
I think so too, and I think good for the museum to get to do all their. They're putting this towards their endowment. We had Rob Dyson on a couple of weeks ago, and they've already funded the building of the new museum, and this will be their endowment that'll allow them to expand and grow and continue, hopefully in perpetuity. And well, we couldn't have had a better time here, Steve. We could probably talk all afternoon, as you could probably tell. But man, a lot of great stories and great knowledge, and wonderful to have you on. And hopefully we'll see you at one of these events coming up pretty soon, I would imagine. If not Chattanooga, somewhere else, I'm certain.
I'll be watching for you. I'll be checking your inventory out, too. Thank you for having me on. I've had a great time.
So much fun. Hey, thanks again. Steve Ahglrim. We'll be back with just a couple of minutes of the Classic Auto Mall Show.
The Classic Auto Mall has more than 1,000 vehicles for consignment in our huge 8-acre climate-controlled showroom. It's a real indoor mall. If you'd like to know all the advantages of buying and selling a car through consignment, the information is available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. It's easy, safe, convenient, and it doesn't matter where you are. We sell worldwide. See our huge selection of classic and collectible vehicles at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall Show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, on a beautiful day. Man, it was nice. I didn't have my jacket on yesterday or nothing.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
I almost put the top down.
Yeah, I was close.
I didn't want to get pneumonia.
Yeah, I had pneumonia, thank you. And it was not fun.
No.
It was not pleasant. So, Steve Ahglrim, what a great wealth of knowledge. My goodness gracious. One of those guys that you can just so easy to talk to, you can talk to forever.
Judges are intimidating, though, when you're at a show.
But it's also intimidating for them. I mean, think about it. When you go, okay, now you're going to come judge at Pebble Beach. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, really? Am I qualified for that? Nobody's stopping
That's like
me.
big leagues, the big leagues, for sure.
That's the big old leagues.
That's
and
right.
where did we sell cars this past week?
Where did we do?
Ask?
Where?
How about Rising Sun, Maryland? How about Strasburg, Virginia? How about Wellington, Florida? Gilman, Iowa? Perkasie, Pennsylvania, Deer Park, Pennsylvania, or Washington, excuse me, Lehighton, Pennsylvania, Quakertown, Pennsylvania, Moulton, Pennsylvania, McKay, Idaho, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Woods Hole, Massachusetts, Penns Grove, New Jersey, and Moncton, Maryland.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And speaking of Pebble Beach, you're going, aren't you?
We are going. Kathy and I are going this year. We've made our reservations 3 years in advance.
I just happen to be looking at radio ratings for Monterey Salinas. I found the radio station for you to listen to. K-Pig. The format's called Americana. Bob Dylan, David Learning, Rolling Stones, Roy Rogers, Blazers, Santana, Jackson Brown, and my favorite, those darn accordions playing The Devil Went Down to Georgia. That's your kind of station.
That's right. I mean, that's right up my alley. As eclectic as they come, right? We love that kind of stuff. So I'll have to listen to that when I'm out there.
K-Pig. Shout out.
Yeah, it'd be hard not to miss that one. So, new arrivals this week. How about the 1979 Dodge D150 Lil? You say Lil or Little?
Lil Red
Express pickup.
Yeah, like Lil Wayne.
Yeah, bright canyon red over red, stunning restoration. This thing is spectacular. Correct 360 cubic inch 4-barrel V8, which was quite a lot of motor in 79.
Yeah, they were considered sport trucks.
They were sport trucks. They were the Typhoon of their day.
Oh, well.
Or, I mean, the Cyclone of their day.
I don't know.
I might be pushing it a little.
Yeah, I think
All right. Correct A727 automatic. It's one of, I think, 5,100 and something of these made. And added air conditioning. No harm, no foul, I say.
That's good to have. Good to have. Yeah.
Especially in a truck with the, it's good to have. And plus, it's not a lot of square footage, so you don't have as powerful as an air conditioner.
That's true. But they have the stacks, which are very cool. Very cool. Everybody loves the stacks.
Everybody loves the stacks. The 1970 Chevrolet Malibu station wagon. This thing is really looks like a Chevelle wagon.
Coming at you.
Astro blue over blue. ZZ4 350 cubic inch V8, 700 R4 automatic. New power front disc brakes. New upholstery.
Yep.
That's the way we say it in the South.
Upholstery.
And it's got unlimited potential. Now, what does that mean? It means it's probably a little rough around the edges. It's got some things that need to be fixed or attended to, or just drive it and enjoy it.
I say drive it while you're restoring it.
Yeah, I mean, you're driving down there. Here's the thing about cars that are condition 1 being excellent and condition 5 being, beater and, barely drivable. Number 3 condition car is kind of just a driver quality car. If you get up close and start looking, there's imperfection. But if you're driving down the road, you don't get any less thumbs or waves. Everybody's still, that's a cool looking car, and they're not nitpicking it like we have a tendency to.
As I often say, a car like this is like a blank slate. Use your imagination. You want it black, paint it black.
You want to make it an SS Chevelle looking wagon with a 4-speed and
sky's the limit.
Cool stuff. Put a 454 in it. Awesome. Other new arrival: the 1973 Pontiac Firebird Formula, Buccaneer red over black. PHS documents, correct 350 cubic inch V8, numbers matching turbo hydromatic 350 automatic transmission, new 4-barrel quadrajet. It's got a 10-bolt axle.
Yep, 10 bolt.
There you go. You don't want them 9 bolts.
I can't believe it's still here. It's a great car, and they go fast.
They do. They're a go-fast car.
In two ways.
In two ways. That's right. How about the 1960 Lloyd LT600?
How about that car?
How about
we just moved it today.
We did?
Yeah.
Teal over teal and beige. Rarely seen. Showstopper. This thing is so bizarre. I've never seen one.
I think Randy has a video on YouTube about it, too.
Well, we'll have another one now. Yep. So it's an interesting car. It looks like a little bread wagon or
a little bread wagon.
A little bread wagon.
Yeah, a little jitney is the
little jitney, yeah. And next on new arrival is a 2000. Well, this car city is familiar. 2016 Mercedes-Benz S65 AMG Coupe, Obsidian black over Napa black, 36,000 actual garage kept miles.
That's right.
621 horsepower, 6-liter twin turbo V12 with 700 plus foot-pounds of torque.
Ooh. Owner kept it clean, too.
That owner, he's a bad
He kept it clean.
He is so cool.
He knows what he's doing.
I call this car the Beast. This thing is just...
It is a beast.
Absolutely amazing.
Or Black Betty.
Old Black Betty?
Yeah, bam-a-lam, bam-a-lam, the damn thing don't lie. Oh, don't even get me started. God. Anyway, that's my car.
Yes.
So the price is firm. Don't negotiate. Don't come in here kicking the tires.
It's a good price, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Given the market.
For the car, for what it costs new, which I did not pay what it cost new. Let's get that clear. But for what it costs new versus the value today, and for the amount of performance that this car has. I mean, I've never driven anything with more power. It is just...
It's supercar performance for a third of the price.
A third of the price, and it drives nice. You know, it doesn't, it's
and you
not
can take your kids with you.
Yeah,
too.
you can take your kids. You got a back seat. So. And last but not least, the 1964 Buick Riviera, Marlin blue over blue, 340 horsepower, 425 V8, ST400 automatic transmission, luxury muscle, smooth. This thing, I tell you what, when Bill Mitchell designed the Buick Riviera, he really got it right in 1963 or whenever he actually designed it in 62. It is just a cool looking car. And you could get the 360 horse version, which was the GS model, and it was a beast. So much fun to drive. And exactly. So that's our new arrivals this week. And coming up in just a minute, we're going to have our friend who's become a regular on the show, Keith Martin, the publisher of Sports Car Market magazine. Oh, last but not least, Bernie Ecclestone, the guy, impresario of Formula One, who ran Formula One forever until he sold it recently, had 69 Formula One cars in his collection that he was going to sell through a retail environment through a guy, Tom Harley, out of Birmingham area, England, was going to be the dealer, and he was going to sell each one individually. Well, that didn't happen. Mark Mateschitz, the heir to the
I don't know
the drink Red Bull.
Oh, Red Bull guy.
Yeah, Bought the whole collection.
Really?
North of $500 million.
Oh, my God.
59 cars.
Sure, why not? Sure, why not?
And supposedly going to put them in a collection, and we'll see them in the future and all that good stuff. And so interesting that, probably the largest single transaction ever to happen with a car. And I'm sure the numbers will slip out one of these days, so it'll be interesting to hear. But 70 years of Grand Prix and Formula One, or Grand Prix and Formula One cars. And coming up this weekend is the first F1 race. Of the season. We've been watching Drive to Survive, the documentary about last season.
That's right.
And Lewis Hamilton now moving to Ferrari, so that'll be interesting.
Big news.
Yeah, big news, and he'll look good in that red, and hopefully he can send it home to Daddy. When we return, we'll continue we'll begin our conversation with Keith Martin, publisher of Sports Car Market Magazine. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in aforementioned Morgantown, Pennsylvania, with our dear friend Keith Martin, publisher of Sports Car Market Magazine. This is becoming kind of a regular thing. I'm liking this.
So am I. Sure, we've been doing the magazine 38 years now.
That makes me feel old, Keith.
No, it makes me feel lucky. Think about it, people who talk about their jobs that they've had all their lives. How cool, every month, pumping it out about cars and the market and all the great people who are involved in this hobby. I mean, it's been good. Yeah,
all the people that we've met over the years is just staggering. And from everybody from just characters in the hobby to wealthy guys to guys who are, working the detailer. I mean, they're just everybody and everybody in between. All car people are generally pretty good people.
Well, and what's nice is when you come together for a Cars and Coffee or show or something like that, you're already speaking the same language when you enter the event. You don't have to explain to your friend why you bought an 83 Corvette.
Yeah, exactly. He'll get it. He'll understand it, and he'll question it just like you would, or he'll applaud it just like you would.
Well, my 17-year-old son learned. He started going to the big car shows this summer, and he had a C3 Corvette, and he was having trouble with the vacuum-operated headlight actuators. And he said, I just parked my car next to a bunch of other C3 owners and went over and talked to them and said, what do you do about this? And they told him which YouTube videos to watch and how to go to Harbor Freight and buy the vacuum gauge. So he already had a clan.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's what perpetuates the hobby. And so our program that we do with you once a week, we're going to become a regular thing, if you will, is kind of bringing your blog to life that you write every week that's released every Tuesday to your subscribers to your email newsletter. And, of course, this week, the title is Just 3 Clicks, where you talk about been a little cold and wet out in Oregon here lately, and that makes you think about battery tenders and all that other good stuff.
Well, let me jump in here. People can subscribe to the newsletter for free.
Nice.
They can go to sportscarmarket.com, and a pop-up will come, and every Tuesday is an inside newsletter that comes for free to your inbox.
Nice.
Yeah, we've had a crappy winter, even up to 6 inches of snow, and I live in a condo association, where don't tell anybody, but I've rented 5 spaces.
Don't tell the neighbors, right?
My HOA, the homeowners association, has decided that battery tenders are a threat to setting the building on fire.
Wow, didn't know that.
I called the fire marshal in, had him inspect it, and he said the real threat are these people with these lithium-ion e-bikes that they keep in their condos.
Ooh, yeah.
And they're going to explode and set the whole building up. But once somebody pulls the safety flag, it's real hard to argue with it.
Yeah, it's hard to unring that bell, so to speak.
Yeah. I end up with battery cutoffs on my older car. The problem with the 911, the Alpha Spider, and the Jaguar, they all have all have analog clocks in them that run all the time. And even though it takes a tiny bit of juice, it will run your battery dead over a couple of weeks.
Sure. You know what's the irony of that is that they're never right on the time, yet they run all the time. That's just crazy. So you disconnect the batteries, which is a great thing. We do that here more often than not, as opposed to trickle chargers, just completely disconnecting the battery.
Yeah. The batteries are happy that way.
They like it a lot. They're very happy.
What I've been thinking about, because we had good weather last week, and so I ended up taking out almost all my cars, and I The Jaguar is a really interesting car because it's a true luxury GT car from that era.
Right.
Power steering, power brakes, air conditioning, lots of power. And because there are no accelerator jets in a Stromberg carburetor, the way you start that car is you just leave the throttle alone and crank it.
Right. I think that every car that's older than 25 years old should have a little booklet in the glove box from the previous owner that tells you what to do and what not to do to start a car. You know, fuel injected cars, you don't pump. That car, you don't pump. This car, you pump like crazy. This one, you got to, you know, there should be everybody should pass that on because it can be frustrating if you don't know the sequence for an older car.
Well, I was thinking about my son and, 20 years down the road and what I think he will miss, because he'll end up having an electric car at some point. There's something special about an analog car if you're the one that knows how to start it.
Right.
And when it's cranking and cranking and cranking, and then it fires.
Right.
There's a moment when that engine comes to life, and the sound that spits out through the exhaust pipes is fabulous. And the car, it's like a sleeping lion.
Right.
It takes its own time to wake up, and you're feeding the choke from 3 clicks to 2 clicks to 1 click. I mean, we are lucky to have grown up in an era with analog starting processes.
Absolutely, because nowadays people don't know any better. They just turn the key, and if it doesn't start, oh my goodness. It's like lawnmowers we were talking about, I think, last week, where, you have to pull 100 times, and now they have electric ones where you just click the button and away it goes. It's good to know these old things because, we may go back to analog lawnmowers.
Well, I've been reading a couple of science fiction books that hypothesize some gigantic electromagnetic pulse that wipes out all cars that have electronics in them.
Wow, I like that.
So the only cars on the road are 52 Chevys with straight sixes and a 3-speed.
So that may have happened to Cuba, right?
Well, actually, I went to Cuba for a day and rode around in those old cars.
Right.
And they're terrible cars, but it was great fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's more the experience, I think, than the ride quality, right?
Oh, that's right. I will say that Cuba, it really was interesting being there for a day because you can just see how the economic, the sanctions and things have really left Cuba looking like the 50s.
Right, right. You wonder if the mobsters back in the day had their way and built those hotels and luxury hotels, would it be like Vegas today? Or it would be, something different. It's hard to predict, but it would be interesting if you could crystal ball that and see what it would look like today if that never went away.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, and I'll be political for a second here. I just believe if we were able to inject some capitalism into Cuba, we would see massive change right away because they're hardworking people. They just don't have any opportunity to be involved in any businesses.
Well, it's, how frustrating is it to be a kid in Cuba who, can program a computer like just as good as a guy at IBM, but yet will never have the opportunity to showcase that or for anybody to ever understand or see that.
Yeah, I totally understand.
So you've been exercising the cars here lately. We're all thinking that because the warm weather's coming and you're getting the batteries going and you're starting them. And have you got them all sorted and all running now, or?
The last car I want to take a run on is my Lotus Elise. The Lotus Elise is the most modern of my cars. It's 2006. The motor will never let that car down. It's a Toyota motor.
Right.
What will let that car down over time are its electronics.
Right. Right. Yeah.
We went to run it through our DEQ a year ago, and the computer had forgotten what its VIN was.
Well, that sounds familiar. I forget things too.
Tips that we had to take the car 180 miles north to the nearest dealer and have him program that computer.
Do you find as a car guy, and I feel this way, I hate taking my car to the dealer. It's like it's either defeat or it's just, I don't know. It's just like, I don't have time for this, and then they want to upsell you and tell you about the PCV valve that's got oil on it or something.
Yeah, it depends on the car.
Right.
Because with the Lotus, because it's a specialty dealer and because they understand this problem, they're glad to see you and give you some hints and
sure.
And stuff like that. If it's a more regular car, I've got a 2021 Hyundai, which is the best car I've ever owned.
Right.
And I get called every day about the extended warranty for a car that has never needed to visit a warranty shop in its lifetime.
Right. You could warranty it till 2100, right?
Well, I have that. I've had that car 5 years, and I've put 11,000 miles on it.
Wow. So
I drive my old cars.
Sure. And as far as drivability, I mean, you love the Jaguar because it's got a lot of power. The Elise is obviously fun because it's probably pretty much fairly reliable, right?
It's a Toyota.
But what about the 911? Those are fun to drive, aren't they?
Yeah, it's been an education for me. It's a Sportomatic because I had a stroke 5 years ago, so I can't drive a stick. But I wanted something. I had some Tiptronics and PDKs. But really, what you do in a PDK is for the first week that you have it, you shift it like crazy, and then you leave it and drive.
Right, right, and then that's it, right?
That's it. And so I had a twin turbo Tiptronic, and I sold. I wanted a 911 where I had to actually do some shifting to make the car work.
Sure. Yeah, to participate.
Well, and I put a note in my magazine. I was kind of looking for one. And so I get a call from a guy who's at the Hershey Swap Meet in Pennsylvania,
right,
which is not close to Portland, Oregon, by the way.
It's close to us, but not you.
And he calls me and he says, Keith, there's this Porsche 911S Sportomatic here, and I know you've been looking for one. Do you want his phone number? And I thought, I can't escape.
Once you put it out there, people are going to call you. They're going to tell you about this one that they know about,
I called the guy's phone number. He said, I'm a subscriber. This would be a perfect car for you. It needs nothing. It's $49,000. So I bought it that day, and there was no way to have it inspected because there were all these people milling around the car, and they want to look at the car and take it. And so you just, how it is, you have to pull the trigger.
Yeah, wing and a prayer and go.
Yeah, and so that was 49. And now that I'm in the car 69, for the car that needed nothing.
Praising that uphill valuation just keeps going up, right?
Yeah, Well, it's not working like the stock market for me right now.
Well, let's don't even talk about that either.
Okay.
But
it's a narrow body car, a G series car, 75. It's got 50,000 original miles on it. I have all the paperwork back to Al Hobarth. Selling it. New. It's a primitive car. If the Jag is a GT car, a cruiser, then the 911 is a pure sports car.
Right.
No power brakes, no power steering.
But easy to drive, right?
But boy, yeah, when you fire that thing up, the sound that explodes out of the back is so cool. It's a 2.7 motor. The car weighs only about 2,000 pounds.
Wow.
So it's about like a Carrera RS.
I think the wiring harness on my wife's new Mercedes SUV weighs more than that.
I would listen. When we had the SL 555,
right,
we loved the car, but it weighed 5,000 pounds.
It was crazy. Where did they get so bloated? And now, if you look at the new SL, I don't even know what the hell I'm looking at. I can't. It doesn't even look right. It's something is way off on the new SL. It just doesn't look like it's supposed to look.
I just have I have an inherent problem with cars with more than a couple hundred horsepower because you will never, ever use that power.
No. And if you do, it'll probably bite you in the rear. I mean, my fear with this V12 Mercedes that I have is that if I give it gas and maybe the traction control is not on, that thing could go around on me on the middle of an interstate just by, passing somebody. I mean, it's got that much power it scares me.
I was picking a McLaren and we hit 160 someplace in Eastern Oregon, and I pulled over to the side of the road and I stopped.
Right.
And I thought, I am never going to go that fast on a public road again.
Ever.
Because it takes a cow walking across the road or something weird.
Armadillo. Do you have armadillos up there? You don't have armadillos up there.
No, we sell those to Texas.
So tell me. I know that we talked about this, but why should someone subscribe to Sports Car Market Magazine? Tell me.
Well, what I tell people, it's like reading BAT on steroids.
Exactly.
Because we have 100 cars that we evaluate every month, all by experts. So instead of the trolls, we have our experts who go into that car and look at it and talk about it and give you an estimate of whether it was well sold or well bought. I mean, it's the only magazine in the world that gives you an expert's opinion of a car. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you guys a special on this show.
Cool.
The magazine's $88 a year. It's not cheap. We've been around 38 years, have a lot of subscribers. If you do sportscarmarket.com, test drive 6, the number, test drive 6,
yep.
You get 6 months of Sports Car Market for just $19.95.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, you talk about, I mean, it's one of those things that I think once a person reads your magazine, if they're even remotely a car guy, they're never going to not want to read it again.
We have a 92% renewal rate.
Wow. That's got to be unheard of in the magazine world.
And I'm proud of that. And we wouldn't have survived this long if we weren't bringing you something where you can't wait to get what's inside the book, and you can't get it anywhere else.
Yeah, it's the only magazine that I get that I put right on top of my desk, and I know it's the next thing I'm going to read as soon as I have a moment to read something. So Test Drive 6 is the promo code, Sports Car Market Magazine. If you have any trouble with that, call us here at Classic Auto Mall. Email us, podcast@classicautomall.com. We'll help you get through it, and we'll hopefully gain you some new converts to the sports car market world.
I'd like that very much.
All right, Keith, take care. And Keith Martin, Sports Car Market Magazine, everybody. And we'll be back next week with another fabulous guest. We'll see you on the flip side. Classic Auto Mall Podcast.
The Classic Auto Mall Show with their host, Stewart Ahglrim, executive producer, Steve Ahglrim, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ, video editor, Randy Lammy.
Available on ClassicAutomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit PatTravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.